Discover the incredible life-changing moment when a millionaire finds his first love selling lemonade. Jake was back in his hometown, a place he had almost forgotten, but it tugged at his heartstrings like a familiar song. The air felt different here, filled with sweet memories of carefree summer days. He stepped out of his luxurious car and walked down the street where, as a child, he'd tirelessly sold lemonade to passers-by. Those bright, sunny days spun with laughter felt like a lifetime away from his penthouse view of the city skyline. Each sip of that tart drink reminded him of simpler joys, the delight in a child's smile, the connection with neighbors as he wandered closer to the community center. A rush of nostalgia wrapped around him. There was a stand right in front, vibrant and colorful, selling lemonade once again just like when he was a kid. And there she stood, Sarah, his childhood neighbor, with the same sparkling eyes and that sweet laughter that had haunted his dreams. She was pouring lemonade, but now she was a beacon of hope, channeling her energy into helping underprivileged kids. Watching her with those children, his heart raced. Memories clashed with his elegant, yet empty, life. Guilt gnawed at him for drifting so far from the values his parents instilled in him. Before he knew it, he was drawn into her orbit, standing there speechless as the world fell away. "Jake?" she said, disbelief coloring her voice. Could it be that the boy who left for city lights had come back? Sarah's smile faded as she registered the wealth he now possessed, and her cautiousness seemed to pulse in the air between them. He wanted to bridge that gap but felt the weight of his privilege pressing down hard. "Listen, I want to help," he managed to say, determined to prove he wasn't just a millionaire looking to flaunt his success. He rolled up his sleeves and joined her. The community center flourished but revealed a stark contrast to his life. Jake organized fundraising events, engaged with families, and the inequalities of it all jolted him awake. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as sparks of a tentative partnership ignited between Jake and Sarah, chaos erupted. An unexpected financial crisis struck the community center, shaking the very foundation of everything they worked for. Jake felt paralyzed, caught between the weight of his past and the responsibility of a future he never thought he'd reckon with. The community was watching, their faith resting delicately in his hands. He could feel the pressure building as he faced the crossroads of his affluent life. Would he rally to support Sarah and the community, or allow himself the easy retreat back into his wealth? The choice loomed heavy like a storm cloud above them, and he couldn't help but wonder if love could bridge the ever-growing divide between their worlds. As tension thickened, Jake knew this could redefine not just his legacy, but the very heart of the town that shaped him. The next morning felt heavy and thick, a palpable weight resting on Jake's shoulders. He walked the winding streets, experiencing the town in a way he hadn't in years. Each step led him closer to the community center, where he could already see Sarah working. The sun poured onto the streets, making everything glimmer with possibility. But for Jake, it felt more like pressure. "Jake!" Sarah's voice broke through his thoughts, pulling him back to the present. She stood by the entrance, her hands stained with lemonade mix, a warm smile lighting up her features like the morning sun. "We really need to brainstorm how to tackle this financial crisis," she said, her eyes serious now. He knew she had been putting up a brave front for the kids, but he could sense the worry behind her confidence. "Let us do it," he replied, fervor igniting inside him. It was a chance not just to save the center but also to connect with her again, to show her he wasn't just a suit and tie even if his bank account said otherwise. They dove into planning, creating meetings and sifting through ideas. The energy in the room shifted, and for a moment the burdens felt lighter. They shared laughter, the kind that resonated deeply, filling the silence between unspoken words. Late in the afternoon they took a break, stepping outside. "Do you think we can really pull this off?" Jake asked, unsure. Sarah looked at him, and for a moment, he felt seen, the kind of noticing that echoed back to all those summers when they shared dreams and secrets under the stars. If anyone can do this, it's us. Together, she stated, her confidence sparking something deep within him. Jake's heart raced as they stood close, the air between them thrumming with unspoken feelings. Together, he murmured, considering how much had changed yet how their essence remained. But just then, a loud crash startled them. The usual warm hum of the community center was disrupted by a blast of anger and disappointment. A group of parents had gathered, frustration boiling over. "You need to do something, Jake. We can't let the center close," one man shouted, voice cracking. Jake felt the heat of their gazes ignite on him. He hadn't signed up for this kind of pressure. The idyllic vision he had of saving the center began to waver, tainted by the palpable desperation. His heart dropped. Was he the right person for this? Yes, Sarah interjected, voice steady and unwavering, grounding him amid the storm. "We're gonna figure this out together," she reiterated, her resolve cascading over Jake, reigniting his own. "Okay," Jake breathed, attempting to swallow the fear while sparking a battle for hope. "Let us start a community fundraiser, a picnic. Everyone can come, donate, volunteer, and have fun." The parents murmured among themselves, considering the idea. He could feel Sarah's unwavering support pushing him forward, fueling that fire of determination within him. But would the center's future rest solely upon this picnic? As they began to outline their plan, enthusiasm contrasted starkly with doubt. Jake's turmoil grew. He was ready to fight for this community, for Sarah. But the lingering question hovered like a dark cloud: would it be enough? In that moment of breathless anticipation, Jake's heart leaped. He realized that more than money, what was at stake was the very essence of connection, love, and a second chance. But in the midst of their resolve, a new, unexpected challenge loomed. Someone from Jake's past had come back, bearing secrets that could unravel everything. Who was this newcomer, and could they threaten not just his mission but also his rekindled relationship with Sarah? The commotion settled, but Jake's heart raced on. Some parents stepped back, their brows furrowed with concern. It wasn't just about the picnic anymore. Tangible waves of anxiety rippled through the crowd. He scanned their faces, searching for someone familiar among the sea of disappointment and fear. Then, from the back of the group, he spotted a figure he never expected to see again: Megan. His old high school classmate, the one who had left town years ago for the city. Her presence was like a ghost from the past, and a mix of emotions clawed at him. Jake hadn't seen her in ages, and the memories flooded back, uninvited yet vivid. Old crushes, high school mistakes, and the innocence of youth. "Are you really back?" he breathed, half in disbelief, half with aching delight. He remembered how they shared dreams of chasing success, how she sparkled with ambition. But those dreams had led her away. Who knew they'd bring her back now, at such a pivotal moment? Megan stepped forward, her eyes sharp but warm. "Jake, I heard about the center. Mom told me. Can't close. This place means more than you know." As she spoke, the crowd hushed, the tension hanging in the air heavy. Jake could feel Sarah's concern beside him, the silence shrouding them like a thick fog. He swallowed, trying to gather his thoughts. "We're starting a picnic fundraiser next weekend," he announced, his voice steady. There was urgency behind his words. "We'll need everybody's help to make it a success. It's a community effort." Megan nodded, her enthusiasm flickering to life. "Count me in. I may have some connections in the city. Can we get local businesses to donate?" Jake's heart skipped. It felt strangely like old days when they tackled challenges side by side, the whole world ahead of them. But then, a fresh wave of doubt crashed over him. Did bringing Megan back into the fold change anything? Would it disrupt the fragile bond he was building with Sarah? "Absolutely. That's a great idea," he replied, forcing enthusiasm into his tone. He turned to Sarah, who crossed her arms, her expression unreadable. "What do you think, Sarah?" Jake asked, hoping to include her in this newfound energy as he felt the tension between the two women. "Sure," she said slowly, a hint of a smile curving her lips, but it didn't reach her eyes. That could work. The more help the better. The crowd murmured in approval as the parents began to rally behind the idea again. But Jake sensed undercurrents he couldn't quite place. It dawned on him. Megan's sudden arrival might complicate things more than he could have imagined. Suddenly, one of the parents stepped forward. A familiar face, but one he didn't recall having met much before. "We'll handle food and volunteers," she said, her voice steely. "But it'll need a lot more than just a picnic to save this place." "Agreed," another one chimed in. "We need long-term support, not just a one-off event." They were right. A picnic could bring everyone together. But once the excitement faded, what would be left? Jake's heart constricted as the magnitude of the challenge weighed heavily once more. He turned back towards Sarah. Her gaze was fixed on him, searching for reassurance, for strength. What could Jake say? The stakes had just risen dramatically, the pressure intensifying. The walls felt like they were closing in, his fears wrapped tightly around him. "Listen," he said, the urgency coursing through him. "We'll brainstorm every single idea. We fight for this community, for the kids." But he paused, looking between Sarah and Megan. "We also need trust. We can't let old feelings and past decisions cloud what we need to do now." Jake took a deep breath, realizing how true the words rang. He needed all the clarity and support he could gather. Would the community truly rally, or would buried tension surface, threatening to tear them apart? As the chatter started again, spiraling into plans, Jake met Sarah's gaze across the space. Something shifted, a mixture of thoughts, fears, and hopes. Could they really bridge the gap that had developed? And just when the momentum seemed to gather steam, Jake felt a chill, a sense that not everything was aligned. Somewhere in the back of his mind, he knew this was only the beginning. Would they all be ready for what lay ahead, especially with Megan's reappearance signaling that hidden secrets were about to reveal themselves? His heartbeat thundered in his ears as he realized one thing. The battle wasn't just for the center anymore. It was about the journey to rediscover themselves amidst the chaos. Would they be able to face what came next together? Jake felt the weight of the world pressing on his shoulders. Plans for the picnic were swirling around him, but his mind was a tangled mess of emotions. He couldn't shake off the sensation that his past was crashing into his present. Megan, vibrant and driven, was back in his life, stirring up feelings he thought were long buried. His connection with Sarah, who stood beside him like a rock, was now shadowed by doubt. Megan leaned in closer to Jake, her voice a mix of excitement and resolve. "Let us not waste any time. I'll reach out to businesses today. Maybe my old boss can help. He owes me a favor or two." "Sounds like a plan," Jake replied, but he felt a flicker of apprehension. The more time Megan spent in this effort, the more complicated things might become. As they stood in the park, ideas bounced between the parents like soft balls, charged with a sense of urgency. Jake could see their determination rising, yet he felt a gulf between him and Sarah. She looked concerned, her arms still crossed tightly across her chest. It was like a barrier he wanted to break. "Do you want to come with me to plan?" Jake finally asked Sarah, hoping to pull her back into his orbit. "We can go over everything we've discussed. I know we can do this together." She hesitated, her gaze flicking from Jake to Megan, and back. "I'm not sure that's a good idea right now," she said quietly, the disappointment in her tone evident. "Sarah," he urged gently, "everything is changing. I need you." Just then, a child's laughter broke through the tension, reminding Jake why they were here in the first place. The children playing around the park were the heart of this community, the reason for fighters like him to stand up and make things happen. He turned to the crowd, trying to capture their energy. "We're in this together. We need ideas, we need volunteers, and most importantly, we need belief. If we all work together, we can save the community center." The parents cheered, voices rising in a chorus of hope. But Jake's heart raced, not just with excitement but fear. Would this enthusiasm last? After the meeting dissolved, Megan pulled Jake aside. "Do you think people really believe we can save it?" she asked, her earlier confidence wavering. "Everyone wants to believe," Jake replied, glancing towards Sarah, who wasn't too far away. She was deep in talk with another parent, her smile genuine but dodgeable. The bigger question is, can we keep that belief alive? Megan nodded, seemingly contemplative. The air buzzed as parents began to disperse, ambitious plans brewing. But Jake felt a knot of anxiety tightening within him. Let us meet tomorrow, he suggested to Megan, his mind racing ahead. We can draft a proposal. Maybe we can present it to the community board. This center needs more than just a fundraiser. Glad to hear it, Megan said, her enthusiasm slipping back into place. She looked passionate, the fire in her eyes flaring as she spoke. But as Jake excused himself, he couldn't shake the feeling that this re-energized spark might light a path filled with risks. Later that evening, as he sat at his kitchen table, scrolling through old photographs, memories of Megan began to merge with the present. A smile tugged at his face, but it faded. This was no typical reunion. The stakes were high. The more he revived those memories, the more he felt the weight of what he could lose. Suddenly, his phone buzzed. It was Sarah, and his heart jumped. Anxiously, he opened it. Can we talk tonight? The message was short, but it carried an undercurrent of urgency that sent chills down his spine. Jake stared at the screen, a thousand thoughts swirling. Did she sense the same thing he did? Was he ready to strip away the layers and confront whatever shadows lingered between them? As he stared out of the window, the fading daylight painted the sky in shades of orange and purple. The calm before a storm, he realized. And with every step he took toward answering that text, he wondered. Was he prepared for the revelations that might come when they finally sat down to talk? Could he face the realities of everything he had alongside the chaos unearthing old feelings? Jake's heart raced as he paced his kitchen, thoughts swirling like autumn leaves caught in a gust. He couldn't ignore the weight of Sarah's message. The urge to respond quickly battled with the fear settling in the pit of his stomach. Was this a conversation that would lead them home, or would it fracture everything they built? He took a deep breath and typed back. Yes. Where? He pressed send, feeling a mix of hope and dread as the message disappeared into the digital ether. The waiting was agonizing. He watched the minutes tick by, each one stretching longer than the last. Finally, Sarah replied, suggesting the small cafe down the street. Jake grabbed his jacket, a sense of urgency propelling him out the door. The cool night air hit his face, a refreshing contrast to the heat swirling within him as he walked. Memories flooded back. The laughter they'd shared, the dreams they'd painted together, now felt like distant echoes. But along those echoes was the chaotic rhythm of doubts. He pondered what needed to be said. Would she voice her insecurities? Would he reveal his confusion? The cafe's warm lights welcomed him, casting a soft glow that somehow felt simultaneously inviting and suffocating. Jake spotted Sarah seated in a corner, her posture tense, fingers nervously tracing patterns on the table. He gave a small wave, and she looked up, her eyes revealing a mix of gratitude and anxiety. Hey, he said softly as he slid into the seat across from her. Thanks for coming, she replied, her voice steady but her eyes darting about. Avoiding his gaze, the waitress arrived promptly, and they each ordered a simple cup of coffee. Jake could feel the weight of silence settling between them, heavy and palpable. Jake, Sarah finally broke the tension. I needed to talk to you because... She paused, gathering her thoughts, searching his face for clues. Things feel different since Megan came back. Jake leaned in, all too aware of the truth in her words. I know. It's like everything we had is suddenly under a microscope. Sarah looked down at her hands, her fingers now intertwined. Do you think we can go back to how it was? Or is it all changed now? I want to go back, he confessed, the intensity of his words filling the air between them. But I also feel something with Megan. I'm confused. Silence stretched again, and in that space, Jake's heart sank. He wanted to assure her, to pull her close and say everything would be okay. But how could he promise that when his own heart was divided? What if we can't fix it? Sarah whispered, and the tremor in her voice broke him. I don't want to lose you, Sarah. You're my rock, he said, desperately trying to bridge the widening chasm. But I need to figure out what this means for both of us. She nodded slowly, processing each word. The weight of the unsaid hung heavily around them. Jake could see the flicker of tears in her eyes as she fought to maintain her composure. I guess if we're honest, we need to choose, she said softly, swallowing hard. Do we still believe in each other? Jake's pulse quickened. Was this the moment, the turning point where they either moved forward together or let the tide sweep them apart? As they sipped their coffee, an unspoken understanding began to materialize, but the lurking question echoed in Jake's mind. Could love really survive the storms of change? Before he could voice his thoughts, a figure brushed past their table, and his gut instinct told him something was off. He turned just in time to catch a fleeting glance of a familiar face stepping out into the night. What was Megan doing here? Jake's heart sank, and for a moment, the world around him faded. The warm cafe, the buzzing chatter, even the comforting aroma of coffee, it all evaporated as he locked eyes with Megan. Is that? Sarah's voice wobbled, pulling him back to reality. He met her worried gaze, their silent fears hanging heavily between them. Yeah, it's Megan. He barely managed to speak, the words lodged in his throat. Confusion churned within him, tightening like a noose. Why was she here of all places? Megan and I. We have history, he finally admitted, keeping his voice low. Sarah's face paled, and she fidgeted with the napkin on the table. And what does that mean for us? For what we were just talking about? Jake caught a glimpse of Megan disappearing into the night. I don't know, he confessed. I guess I thought we were done with that part of my life. Clearly not, Sarah replied, her tone sharp. The hurt in her eyes cut deeper than any words could. Just then, the waitress arrived with their coffee, setting steaming mugs before them. The moment felt clumsy now, the warmth of the drink contrasting with the chill surrounding their conversation. Should I go after her? Jake asked, an inexplicable impulse to chase after Megan igniting with a fierce urgency. Do you want to? Sarah's question was soft, but it sliced through the tension. Jake hesitated, his heart thudding in his chest. He followed the flickering path of his uncertainty. On one hand, the unresolved feelings with Megan pulled at him, but on the other, the tangible connection with Sarah, a bond built through shared vulnerabilities, anchored him fiercely. His voice faltered. I care about you, Sarah. I do. I get that, she said, staring into her coffee. But it doesn't change what I just saw. You didn't just see her. You seemed drawn to her. Each word felt like an echo, reminding him of their fragile state. Jake resisted the urge to reach for her hand, to comfort her in the moment. You're right, he admitted, the truth leaving a bitter taste. But I need to clarify things. I need to know what's real. Real? Sarah scoffed lightly, a tremor hidden beneath. What if I'm not part of your real? What if it was just easy with me? The thought hit him hard, and Jake had to catch his breath. He couldn't afford for Sarah to feel that way. It's not easy. It's deep. You are so much more than easy. I don't think you truly understand how much you mean to me. Silence loomed again. He could feel her weighing his words, searching for sincerity amidst the storm of emotions swirling around them. Megan hasn't been part of my life for years. But now here we are. I just don't understand why it's all happening now. What happens next? Sarah's question mirrored his own thoughts, pressing into the space between them. For a split second, Jake saw the flicker of hope in her eyes, mixed with profound disappointment. It was unbearable to see the conflict tattooed on her features. I need to talk to her to figure out what's really going on, he said, his resolve hardening. Jake stood up, ready to take a step out of the cafe, knowing he had to face whatever awaited him outside. As he reached the door, he paused, glancing back at Sarah, whose expression was a fragile mix of fear and yearning. Jake, she called softly, her voice barely above a whisper. He turned. Yeah. Just make sure you know what you want when you go. The moment hung thick in the air. He nodded, feeling the weight of her words anchor him just as he pushed through the door and stepped into the crisp night. What would he discover in confronting his past? And was it fair to gamble with Sarah's heart in the process? Jake took a deep breath, spotting Megan at the corner of the street. As he approached, the urgency of this fork in their path surged through him. He needed clarity, yet knew that clarity could shatter everything he thought he understood about love. "Hey," he called out, feeling all the unresolved tension fluttering in the air. But would the truth pulse warmly or cut sharply? "Hey," Jake called again, his voice rising above the sound of distant traffic and the murmur of late-night pedestrians. Megan turned slightly, a shadow of surprise crossing her face as she processed who had spoken her name. "Jake," she replied, her tone flat, but it carried a weight of emotions left unsaid. The evening air felt thick, heavy with all the time that had slipped by them. He stepped closer, the glow of the streetlights illuminating her features familiar yet distant. Part of him couldn't help but recall the years they shared. With those memories came the bittersweet tastes of love and loss. "What are you doing here?" he asked, trying to sound casual, but his heart raced under the pressure of the moment. "I could ask you the same thing." Her sharp gaze pierced him. "Didn't he expect to see you here, especially not with her?" Jake glanced back at the cafe door, imagining Sarah's worried, shimmering eyes. "We were just talking," and then his voice trailed off as he felt the weight of the tangled past pulling him back. "But what brought you back to this part of town?" Megan sighed, her shoulders suddenly heavy with the burdens of nostalgia. "I needed a change. Just felt like I needed to come home even if home feels different now." The word home threw him. It was as if they were both standing at the edges of a memory, trying to decide if they wanted to leap back into it or stay firmly planted in their new realities. "So you're back for good?" he asked, his voice barely above the surrounding hum of the city. "Maybe, maybe not. Who really knows?" Her playful smirk didn't reach her eyes, and for a moment, silence enveloped them. The world continued to spin around them, and yet for Jake, everything felt suspended, muted. It was just the two of them, grappling with the history they shared. "Look," Megan began, but her words faltered, giving way to hesitation. "Things happened, and I never really got to say goodbye, not properly." He felt that knot in his chest tighten even more. "I didn't get the chance to say what I wanted to either. When you left, it was sudden." "Yeah, it was." Megan shrugged, her vulnerability creeping through. "But we were young, and you know how it is, we just grew apart." "Did we?" His question hung heavily, his tone reflecting uncertainty. "Look," she said, stepping closer now. "Maybe we owe it to ourselves to understand what we had. Or what it was." Jake took a step back, feeling his heart beat louder with each syllable. What did she mean? Did this mean she wanted to talk about them? Or was it just the nostalgia that lingered between them? "Megan, I don't know what I want. I've moved on, sort of. But seeing you here, it's confusing me," he admitted, his voice breaking under the weight of his honesty. "Maybe it's okay to be confused," she replied softly, her eyes glistening under the street lamp. "Maybe it's okay to just want to understand." That answer felt too complicated, its echoes reverberating back through his mind, causing a whirlwind of doubt. Behind him, the cafe buzzed with life, a stark contrast to the emotions coursing through him. "What about Sarah? Do you want to grab a coffee? Just us?" Megan suggested unexpectedly, a hint of hope sparking in her voice. Jake's heart lurched. He glanced back, knowing he could be stepping deeper into a pit of disarray. Yet, at that moment, his world was shaking, split between two women who represented two very different paths. "Okay, let us talk," he said, the resolve settling in his chest, surprising even himself. As they started walking again, he couldn't shake the thought that this meeting could lead to something profound, something life-altering. But with every step, the question loomed larger in his mind. Could he afford this exploration? Would it end in clarity, or would it drown him further into the chaos of his past? As the city lights flickered against the growing darkness, Jake felt the tug-of-war between his heart and mind intensify. What was he truly searching for? And at whose expense? The air was thick with anticipation as they walked side by side, lost in a maze of thoughts. The cafe loomed ahead, its warm glow welcoming yet foreign. Jake hesitated, a million memories flashing through his mind, laughter shared over steaming mugs, promises made in whispers. They had weathered storms and celebrated victories together. But those days felt like a lifetime ago. So how has life treated you since? Megan's voice trailed off, leaving the past hanging in the air like a delicate spiderweb, ready to tear at the slightest touch. Busy, Jake replied, forcing a smile that felt more like a grimace. Work's been nonstop. You know how it is in the city. Megan nodded. I do. But sometimes I wondered if you were really happy. His breath hitched. Happy? Sure, I guess. But the word tasted bitter on his tongue. He thought about the times he was alone in the bustling apartment. The laughter that echoed in the halls felt hollow without someone to share it with. They reached the cafe and stepped inside. The familiar scent of brewing coffee reminded him of the countless nights spent with Megan, talking about their dreams, their fears, plans that felt infinite. He gestured toward a table in the corner, the best seat for long conversations where the world outside faded away. Once seated, silence settled around them, each sip of coffee punctuating the stillness. Megan stared at her cup and then back at Jake, searching his eyes for answers. What happened to us? She finally asked, her voice barely above a whisper. He shrugged, trying to articulate the confusion that had rooted itself deep within him. It wasn't that easy to distill years of shared joys and betrayals into simple words. We just lost touch. Or maybe we lost each other, she said softly, biting her lip as if bracing for the pain. Her vulnerability shattered the walls Jake had built around his heart. As they spoke, tension ebbed and flowed between them, memories surfacing like phantom images. Her laughter, his first kiss, the reckless plans made while only teenagers. He realized that while they drifted apart, the love hadn't fully dissipated. They say you never really forget your first love, Jake muttered, a hint of regret coloring his tone. And you think of me? She looked him straight in the eye, searching for authenticity. Jake's pulse raced. I do. More than I expected, to be honest. Why did you never reach out? Her question was direct, leaving no space for ambiguity. I thought it was better to let it go, he admitted. Maybe I was scared of what it would mean to bring everything back up. She nodded, her gaze drifting to the people outside, a wistful look etching her features, as if she were trying to peer into her own future. Sometimes I wish I hadn't left. Everything felt so unfinished. Feeling a swell of emotion, Jake leaned in. Maybe we can fix that. Not everything has to stay broken forever. In that moment, the connection between them crackled with possibility. Just as he opened his mouth to express his deepest thoughts, the cafe door swung open, and Sarah walked in, her buzz of energy illuminating the room. Jake's heart plummeted. The cheerful, warm welcome he would extend suddenly felt treacherous. What would she think? How could he explain this moment, the reunion that felt more like a lifeline than a simple chat? Megan's eyes widened, a flicker of understanding passing between them. The weight of the conversation shifted, heavy with the unspoken tension. He was teetering on the edge of a crossroads, what lay behind him and what waited ahead. Would he share this part of himself with Sarah? Or would he let the connection between him and Megan slip through his fingers again, like grains of sand? As Sarah strode over, a smile brightening her face, Jake could only wonder how their lives would entangle once again, and whether he would finally have to confront the truth that haunted him. What choices would he have to make in this moment of revelation? Jake's mind raced as Sarah approached. She was vibrant, with her laughter echoing like a melody familiar yet jarring. He could almost feel the tension thickening between him and Megan like a heavy fog. Could he navigate this moment without losing everything? Hey Jake, fancy seeing you here, Sarah chirped, her bright smile lighting up the cafe. She glanced at Megan, and for a split second, Jake didn't recognize the look in Sarah's eyes. Curiosity? Apprehension? Sarah, this is Megan, Jake said, his voice strained. In that moment, every ounce of him wished he could insert a pause button. He needed to figure this all out, and fast. Nice to meet you. Megan smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes, which were fixed on Jake, silently asking, "What now?" The tension was palpable. Jake sipped his coffee, grateful for the familiar warmth but feeling it slip through his fingers like the conversation he yearned to have with Megan. "What are you doing here?" Sarah asked, her brows arching with genuine curiosity, oblivious to the silent drama playing out in Jake's mind. "Just catching up with an old friend," Megan replied. Her tone light, but the weight behind it was heavy. "It's been a long time." Jake felt like he was teetering on the edge of an abyss, wondering if he could somehow pull the conversation back to safe ground. "Yeah, we were just reminiscing," he added, searching for a way to guide the narrative. "Oh, the good old days, right?" Sarah giggled. "You two were inseparable. Almost like a movie." There was sweetness in her words, but Jake noticed the faint trace of something else. Perhaps concern? Megan shifted in her seat, her smile faltering. "Yeah, we had some fun times," she said, her voice quiet. Trying to grasp the thread of control, Jake cleared his throat. "Did you want to join us?" His invitation felt clumsy, like reaching for a lifeline made of glass, beautiful but fragile. "Actually, I was just meeting someone else," Sarah said, her eyes darting to her phone, which buzzed impatiently in her hand. "But I just wanted to say hi. I didn't expect to find you two here together." "Yeah, well, surprise," Jake said with a forced laugh, but neither woman joined in. "Maybe we should catch up later?" Sarah suggested, glancing at them both. She was trying to leave, and Jake felt a momentary wave of relief and resentment wash over him. "I'll text you." She shot Jake another bright smile, the kind that always made his heart flutter, and waved goodbye as she walked away soon as Sarah left. A silence enveloped the table. It was charged with unsaid words, like a tightrope hanging between them. Megan's gaze bore into him. "You didn't tell her about this?" The unspoken hurt hung in the air, a shadow waiting to be acknowledged. "I didn't know how," Jake admitted, feeling raw and exposed. "I didn't mean for you to feel like this was a secret or anything." "Then why does it feel like there's a wall between us again?" Megan's voice trembled. "You're still the same Jake. Running from everything, aren't you?" The truth of her words stung him. He leaned back, searching for the right response. This moment felt monumental, a decisive point that could either bring them together or rip apart the fragile connection they were rebuilding. "I want to be better. For both of you," Jake said softly, his eyes locking onto hers with determination. "But I need to figure out what that means. This is complicated." Megan sighed, looking away through the cafe window, her expression pained. "Complicated doesn't have to mean it's over. Sometimes it just means we need to be honest about everything." Jake swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the words he knew he had to say but couldn't yet formulate. Caught in the tides of the past and the reality of the present, he felt like he was drowning. "Listen, Megan," he started, but the door swung open again, interrupting him abruptly. Jenna, an old acquaintance from college, breezed in, her energy filling the atmosphere, momentarily dousing the tension. She scanned the room and caught sight of Jake, her eyes gleaming with interest. Suddenly, Jake's heart raced again, unsure if this was a welcome distraction or yet another complication in an already chaotic moment. How long could we dance around the truth? Would this unexpected arrival throw everything further off balance? Or could it finally bring clarity to Jake's muddled thoughts? With every step Jenna took toward their table, Jake wondered if the truth he was trying to avoid would finally catch up to him, unraveling the threads that tied him to both Megan and Sarah in ways he never expected. What new revelations waited just around the corner? Jenna approached their table, smiling brightly, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface. "Jake, I can't believe you're here," she exclaimed, her voice ringing with delight. She turned to Megan, eyeing her curiously. "Who's your friend?" The playful spark in her voice filled the air, a stark contrast to Jake's tangled thoughts. "This is Megan," Jake introduced, feeling the weight of the moment shift yet again. He could sense Megan stiffening, trapped in a cycle of nostalgia and reality. "Megan's an old friend," he added, trying to defuse the tension like a defibrillator for a heart in shock. "Old friends, huh?" Jenna said with a grin, her eyes flitting between them. "I love reunions. You both must have so much to catch up on." Her excitement felt like a double-edged sword, cutting through the tension but also drawing attention to the rift forming between Jake and Megan. "Yeah, we were just talking," Jake responded, his mind racing as he glanced at Megan, searching for any sign of how she felt about this interruption. "Talking about the past, I hope?" Jenna asked, oblivious to the unspoken difficulties. She seemed genuinely thrilled to find Jake in an unexpected place, and he couldn't entirely blame her. He needed this moment to pull himself together. Sort of, Megan replied, her voice taut yet calm. She maintained a polite smile, but Jake could see the flicker of discomfort in her eyes. "I love nostalgia. It's like a time capsule," Jenna exclaimed, breaking the silence. "You know, when I was in college, we had picnics like the one Jake describes. The whole town came together. It was magic." Jake's heart sank. There was that word again. Picnic. It was supposed to be their chance to galvanize the community, to stand as a united front, not a reminder of the chaos intertwining his past with his present. After a few awkward moments, Jake finally found his voice. "Actually, Jenna, we were brainstorming about saving the community center," he said, hoping to steer the conversation into familiar, safer waters. "It's facing some serious financial challenges." "Wow, that's amazing that you're getting involved," Jenna responded, her enthusiasm genuine. "I'd love to help. Maybe I can rally some volunteers from my circle." The idea sparked something within Jake and Ember, igniting his determination. "Absolutely. Every hand helps." He turned to Megan, encouragingly. "We can really use everyone's skills." He watched as a flicker of energy returned to her expression. Maybe he could mend what had felt so fragile. But as they continued to converse, Megan's demeanor shifted subtly. Jake noticed the way her smile faded as Jenna's excitement mounted, leaving him in a tension-filled limbo of what was and what could be. "Hey, Jenna, I appreciate your offer," Megan interjected tentatively. "But I think Jake and I have to revisit some unfinished business." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Jenna blinked, catching the undertone, but she quickly chose to remain cheerful. "Oh, of course. Don't let me hold you back. Just wanted to catch up and say hi. I'll catch you both later." She waved as she drifted away, leaving the air more charged than before. With Jenna gone, the silence that followed was deafening. Jake looked at Megan, her face now drawn, the lightness exchanged for a sober urgency. "I think we need to talk," he said, the words tumbling out, weighted with the importance of what lay ahead. Megan nodded, her expression guarded. "Yes, we can't keep circling around what happened between us. And now, with Sarah, it's complicated. I just don't want to be the reason you lose her, Jake. You care about her." "It's not that simple," Jake countered, desperation creeping into his voice. "You know how intertwined our lives became, and I thought we had put that whole thing behind us. But now I don't know how to balance everything. That's just it, balance." Megan leaned in, her sincerity radiating toward him. "You need to figure out what you really want. This new life you've built, or the past that refuses to let you go. But you can't have it all, Jake. That's not how it works." As the weight of her words settled over him, Jake felt his resolve begin to fracture. He fought against the doubts creeping in. The laughter, the nostalgia, and even the lingering feelings they shared. It painted a beautiful picture, but it also bore the threads of pain. "Then what do you suggest?" he pleaded. "Because right now, I feel like I'm on a tightrope with no safety net." Megan's gaze softened. "We have to confront our past first. It's like an anchor weighing us down. I don't want to take you away from Sarah, but we first need to acknowledge what we had, what we lost." She spoke with such conviction that Jake felt the tumult inside him start to simmer. Was there truth to her words? Did he risk everything he built if he allowed himself to reconsider what once was? "Okay," he finally agreed, determination flashing in his eyes. "Let us dig in and understand what this all means. But I need to be honest with Sarah. I won't hurt her any further." Megan nodded slowly. "That's fair. But life's complicated, Jake. You have to follow your heart. Just remember, clarity is often born from honesty." As they sat in that cafe, sharing secrets and reflections from their shared youth, Jake felt a spark of courage blossom. This wasn't just about the community center anymore. It was about understanding his past while embracing the present, balancing it all. And maybe, just maybe, as the cool night air slipped through the cafe door, Jake could start forging a path forward, one backed by the strength of those he cared for most. But would he have the courage to embrace that vulnerability when faced with the ultimate choice? Would love be strong enough to weather the storm, or would life's inevitable changes scatter their hearts like autumn leaves on a brisk day? Only time would tell. Jake stood, his heart racing, but his mind now clear. He would fight for connection, not just for the community but for love itself. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but he felt ready, a confident step forward, embracing both potential heartaches and joyful possibilities. With determination in his chest, he made the choice to bridge the gaps, hoping in the end, love would guide him home. And after all, sometimes the real journey is not about the destination but the courage to embrace each twist and turn along the way. So as Jake stepped back onto the bustling street, he felt more alive than ever. The connection to home, to nostalgia, and to the potential that lay ahead pulsating through him. No longer intertwined in shadows, but now, stepping boldly into the light of discovery. This was his moment. Now was the time to truly live. And as the journey unfolded, he knew in his heart, love was always worth fighting for. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more incredible tales like this one, you need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like right now to feed the algorithm and help keep this great content alive. Your support really makes a difference. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this ending. I can't wait to hear what you think. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Show them the power of love and community. Let us spread the magic together.